All right, guys, it's Alicia here with Keller Williams South Tampa, making a video for what feels like the first time this year, but I know is not the first time. It's been a crazy year. So I want to make a video about a topic that I've been talking about the whole year, and it never gets old. So the topic is WTF even happened this year? Like, what happened this year in real estate? I mean, if I didn't work in this business and see it for myself every day, I don't think I'd believe it unless I saw it with my own two eyes. So this has been a sight to behold, and not necessarily in a good way. In fact, I would argue in a very bad way. But let's jump into, I got a PowerPoint here, so I don't miss stuff. Okay, take a look. Okay. So what happened this year by Alicia Deer? Before you tell me that I'm a poet and I didn't even know it, that's not true. I did know it. Oh my God. Okay. So too long didn't read. Basically, the buyers faced unparalleled competition this year over the extremely limited housing supply, and sellers made out like bandits. So why did this happen? Okay, we had a perfect storm. It led to historically low inventory levels, and that's what we're going to talk about, okay? So how did we get here? So the original housing crisis from 2008 led to a lot of fears and hesitation on the investor and developer end for new construction. So a lot of these developers lost their companies. A lot of them, the ones that survived, scaled back considerably, and we are roughly 10 years behind on new construction inventory as a result of that. So without any other variable at play, literally we are 10 years behind on inventory. It's crazy. So then the pandemic happened, right? The sky fell. So we have economic fears led to outrageously low interest rates, like shockingly low, stupidly low interest rates. I mean, we were looking at 15-year conventional mortgages were running around a little over 2%. I mean, that is as close to free money as you're ever going to get in the lending world. It's crazy. So anyway, low interest rates increased buying power, right? So because interest rates were low and people could afford more, they spent more. Also, due to the pandemic, there were some lifestyle changes. Buyers who were on the fence did jump in. So especially in 2020, I saw a lot of this. I had a lot of buyers who I was working with who were kind of on the sidelines. 2020 rolls around, they're stuck in their tiny apartment with their significant other and their animals, and they're working from home, and they just want to kill everybody. So they bought a house. So 2020 was when this really all started, and then it came into 2021 when we really saw that deficit of inventory because people needed the space, right? And in some cases, people had to, they needed a home office or a place for the virtual school for their kid. And the global supply chain was disrupted. So that's everything, but especially when it comes to, housing, building materials, there was a lack of inventory, and there's an increased timeline for the delivery of these materials. Okay. So how did we get here? Continued. We're looking at there's also a government failure. I'm a big proponent of local governments. Local governments really need to step in at this point. I mean, it is literally a crisis. There is especially in the Tampa area, it is insane that we don't have more local government, insight, as to what we can do to fix this. Anyway, so basically by reinforcing antiquated zoning regulations, making all of adding all the unnecessary bureaucratic red tape, and burdening the construction process with excessive delays in the permit process. So, I mean, the government is already going to move slowly. The pandemic gave the government carte blanche to move as slowly as they wanted to, plus add more restrictions. It's been a nightmare. I mean, guys, I'm telling you, working with investors who are pulling permits for major repairs on these properties, it's taking much longer to get them approved. And the city is just kind of giving itself a pass because it's the pandemic. So it's very frustrating. And this is not to say that these are not important things. Of course, it's important that we have the right people coming in to make sure that everything's done correctly. But I mean, this has been exploitative at this point. Institutional investors. 20% of all buyers this year were institutional investors. So we're talking people with lots of money, corporations in most cases, and the majority of them were able to pay cash. So you come in with a cash offer, and man, it's just really hard to compete with cash when you're a buyer who has financing, right? And the ones who did not pay cash were able to leverage the impossibly low interest rates and put down larger down payments and make up any difference in appraisals, things of that nature. And basically what you're looking at is we live in one of the markets where I talked about this last year. International investing is highest in these 3 states, Florida, Texas, and Arizona. Florida is number 1. I made a video about this when the pandemic first started, and I was more right than I thought. Anyway, so migration patterns, and this is I also touch on this in the video from last year, but basically we're talking about old money from luxury markets, northern states, what have you. They're coming here in very large numbers. Florida is the number 1 destination for a lot of different reasons. When everything was shut down, a lot of people were flocking here, and even the people who didn't necessarily have tons of cash were willing to drop whatever they had because the quality of life wherever they were coming from was just not worth it for them. So they were willing to pay to live here. All right, so how has this impacted? Like, obviously, if you've been a part of this market, if you were a buyer in this market or a seller in this market, you understand the impact. But really, I just want to break down a few things. And the first thing is that the first-time home buyers were largely excluded from this market unless you had stacks of cash or you were buying in areas that nobody wanted to live in. And even then, I feel like there were no areas that people really didn't want to live in Tampa. Anyway, so houses sold in record time. I've got a graphic for this that I'll show you. They sold over list price, and in some cases, in some neighborhoods, on average, 105% list to sale, which is ungodly. Anyway, buyers behaved recklessly. They waived contingencies, like really, 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 really important contingencies. Not my buyers. But some buyers did. Yeah, they were encouraged to waive the inspection, which is so amazingly unwise. Oh my God, get an inspection. The appraisal, or make up the difference between the appraisal amount and the contract price. Anyway, so here's the other thing is that we've seen a 20 to 25% year-over-year appreciation in this market compared to a 3 to 5% of a healthy appreciation in a normal market. That is so beyond unsustainable. That is, I mean, I wouldn't believe it if I didn't see it for myself, right? So we're going to talk about, this is a really interesting graph that I want you to take a look at. So the blue line is sales price, okay? Green line is days to sell. So we're looking from January 16th to July 2021. Sale price shot way up, but also look at how days on market have just plummeted, okay? So I also, before we jump into that last slide, I want to show you guys something. This is January of 2016, average days on market 40, median sales price 209. This is for all of Tampa, okay? Now let's just jump forward a couple of years. Let's go to January of 18. Days on market were 22. Median was 240, okay? So we're going up. But let's look at 2021. Okay. 12 days on market. Sales prices all the way up to almost 300. And where did it fall this past November? 7 days, for the month that just ended, November. 7 days on market, including all listings in Tampa, 7 days on market. A median sale price of $350,000. But look at this. Look at April, 5 days on market. May, 5 days on market. June, 4 days on market. This is ridiculous. I mean, 30 days on market is competitive. This is stupid. So anyway, so what is the solution? I mean, honestly, I don't have all the answers, but I really think that we really need an emergency level response to this. And I mean that from the government. Like, there needs to be incentives in place so for new construction. Developers need to be incentivized to build more. We need, it's fundamentally a lack of inventory. We need more of it, okay? We need the cost of materials to go down somehow. I don't know how. I'm not an economist, okay? And we need really government intervention. So we need to rethink the existing spaces and zoning laws that we have in place. Are they really helpful? For example, I have an investor who was applying for a variance of 50 feet to split a lot, 50 square feet, and it was denied. That is stupid. That is ridiculous. And we're talking about one of the most popular neighborhoods in the city, the 33603 zip code. That is dumb, okay? We also need to think of creative solutions based on demand, right? So what can we do to reconfigure our spaces? We really want to lean on some multifamily housing. So we're looking at villas, townhomes, condos, and interest rates have got to go up. There's the push and pull with interest rate and purchase price. So purchase price is not going, I don't see purchase price going down if I'm being honest, but interest rates have to go up. It's just not sustainable. So, all right. And what does the future hold? I don't know, guys. I really don't have that information. We're going into a market in 2022 that is a bit, it's very uncertain. So we just don't have that information. This growth is unsustainable. Does that mean that we're looking at a crash? No. Really, it's extremely unlikely we're looking at a crash because of all the things that we just talked about, right? Like, this is all because of a lack of inventory. So if we don't have, like, this problem is derived from a lack of inventory, then it's the exact opposite of what happened in the initial crash in 2008, right? So certain markets are more insulated from a major market correction than others. The states where money is being poured into from big money. So basically, guys, it's simple economics, supply and demand, inflation. Like, we are not in a good way in terms of like purchase prices going down here in Tampa. Okay, best we can kind of hope for is that they don't keep going up. Let's talk about this, guys. There's a lot to this. This can be a scary topic. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm just trying to help you understand what happened this year, because it was a very bizarre time. And I think that when I was working with buyers, I think it was impossible to really understand where I was coming from. And it seemed, I know in a lot of cases, people really started to question whether or not I even knew what I was doing, because we weren't, we're working our butts off to get these houses, and it's not working. I can't even tell you guys how many times I came in second place out of like 40 offers. It's really demoralizing for you as buyers, and it's very demoralizing for me as your agent. It's not fun. I don't like delivering bad news, but this is what happened. We kind of saw the perfect storm this year. So going into 2022, what do you want to learn about? What can I do to help you? Tell me. I'm here for you guys. All right. Give me a call, shoot me a text, 813-270-3659. I appreciate you, and I'll see you later.